Why, honey there, I'm Ron Juckett, and he's Ricky Keeler, and it's late. It's time for another edition of the DoDCast Postgame Show following the doubleheader against the New York Mets on this 27th day of August, 2017. And we never did get this kind of discussed from the last time. This is the fourth split doubleheader the Nationals have played this year, and it's the fourth time that they've dropped the game that I did and won the game that you did. Is it moderately happy recap? I mean, how would you describe a split, Ricky?
I think they did what they had to do in this game. I mean, obviously, they left a lot of chances on the board late in game one where they could have closed it out. And you felt like that way in game two, it looked like, because Kendrick grounded a double play in the sixth inning. But they got good pitching from Tanner Roark, at least for 5 innings tonight. They got mediocre pitching Merrick Fetty today, and I thought more often than not the bullpen, all things considering, gave up one run in game one with the Rosario homer, and then 1 run in the ninth inning by Doolittle just now. So all in all, the bullpen did okay today too.
Yep, bullpen has done fine. You're kind of worried about Brandon Kinsler not pitching or even warming today. He was hit hard his last couple times out, the last game of the Houston series and yesterday. Refresh my memory with that. Anyway, totals for both of the games. Opener was 6-5. Mets went to 57 and 72. The Nats 77 and 51. 6 runs, 9 hits, and an error for the Amazons. 5 runs, 14 hits, no errors for the Nats. Jerry Blevins goes to 6-0 this year.
One of only 2 Mets to be on the roster from opening day till now.
Yeah. Yep. Joe Blanton takes a loss. He goes to 2-3, and A.J. Ramos in his calisthenics session picks up his 25th save. I know, as I'm trying to scroll here, you didn't see most of the first game. I do want to talk about. Oh boy, I just saw the ERA, Eric Fetty's ERA. Talk a bit about Fetty today. You've seen him the last couple times in Syracuse.
I saw mainly his last start, bits and pieces against Lehigh Valley on Monday. And from all accounts, when I caught up with the game and the Lehigh Valley announcer was talking, it was really one bad play in the outfield that ruined Fetty's outing, but it was still 3 runs over 6 innings. And then he had an outing in Indianapolis where he was pretty good too. So he had 2 good starts in a row in the minors coming into today.
What was his velocity? Do you know?
I want to say early 90s.
Okay, because today even his fastball was topping out at 92, 93. He was working on a curveball that was at 72. His line, 6 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, all earned. He walked 2, struck out 5. I'm surprised he struck out that many. That's what happens when you do this about 5 hours after the end of the first game. But he did give up 2 home runs, and his ERA is now 9.39. He pitched threw a ton of pitches today, 112, 67 strikes. But early on, I mean, both the times he allowed the homers in the first and the third inning, it's like he got nervous, and then he made the big mistake, and then he calmed down and then wound himself up again. He pitches really quickly, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it seemed to me today that he was rushing things. His pitches weren't biting. I mean, the 5 strikeouts in 6 innings is not terrible by any stretch. He allowed 9 base runners, but 5 scored. I know you didn't see much, if any, of his start, but I mean, he does seem to. Do you feel that he rushes between pitches?
Well, he really, look at the 5 runs. It was a 3-run homer by Cabrera and then a 2-run shot by Flores. So we saw the home run pattern be a problem in Chicago, his last major league start. That's a really good lineup. The Met lineup is, if you're calling it average, that's kind of being nice. They're really below average with all the injuries.
Let's face it, we just watched 2 games that we would have kind of rolled our eyes at if these were the lineups in West Palm Beach.
That's true, especially Friday night's Nats lineup.
Yeah.
I think pitching fast, like you mentioned it, I think on Twitter in the early innings, sign of nerves. I mean, every game he goes out there, he's trying to make an impression. He's trying to go out there and show his stuff, and he's pitching better in the minor leagues. It's not like I said, he's not coming in after bad minor league outings, just getting an outing. I really believe him. He said after the game that he's sore, he might be tired. I mean, he threw 110 pitches today, which is 112, which is his season high in all affiliates, even when he was starting at Harrisburg.
That's got to be a career high.
Right. So at some point, you just have to say maybe it's been a long year for him. He's gone back and forth, and we both disagree with the reliever move at the time, and that's kind of coming back to bite him. Maybe you see Fetty once or twice more, but then maybe he gets shut down the rest of the year.
I wonder, because of roster gymnastics, I mean, he would not start again in the month of August anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He may technically get sent down because of that, but
he's the 26th man. He's going back anyway.
Right. But I believe he's probably pitched the last heat of the year for Syracuse. I believe his next game will be with the big club.
Mm-hmm. Maybe now you'll see him get some relief roles, maybe an inning or two out of long relief or something like that, just to settle the innings down, settle his arm down.
Right.
He's not hurt. That's a good thing. And at least, like you said, he got the 5 strikeouts. I liked how he responded in the 6th inning, got out of that bases loaded situation. I think that'll go a long way for him in the long run, because I think you've seen more things out of him than you saw out of Lucas Giolito last year, who got his first win today. So you have to look at young pitchers different ways. I think a lot of people set Fetty's expectations too high. He's a 2 starter at best, probably more so a 3 starter. So if he puts up numbers similar to that kind of pitcher, I think you got to be happy.
I think he's a good solid 3. I also think that they stretched him out as much as they could today because they wanted to see what he would do when he was tired. And as you said, ending his outing on a strikeout, and that situation was really big. And at that point, I think the Nats were kind of out of it. Then they came back and from 5 down and tied the game. Let me go through the rest of these pitchers really quick. Sean Kelly pitched both ends of the doubleheader today. An inning, pitched a clean 7th inning of Game 1. Joe Blanton takes a loss, the home run to Rosario, which wasn't a bad pitch. It was a strike. It was over the middle, but it was a high strike. It wasn't a T-ball pitch, and Rosario just blasted it. He goes inning in the 3rd, 1 run, 1 hit, 1 earned run, and 1 strikeout. Solis, a 1/3 of an inning, a hit, and a walk. He looked kind of shaky today, and Alvarez got the last out for the Nets. We talked about Blevins being 6-0 on the year, but this was his 7th blown save because of the way the save rules work. Let's see. Kelly threw 14 pitches in Game 1 for 9 strikes. Blanton threw 15 pitches, 14 strikes. Solis, here's a concern, 13 pitches and 5 strikes, and Alvarez, 2 pitches, 2 strikes.
Yeah, Solis is the big problem because you look at last weekend in San Diego when he could not fight in the strike zone at all, and you're starting to get the sense with him that he was about to turn the corner and become that reliable guy again, and now he's going out there, like I said, the bad outing today, bad outing in San Diego. He did get the save in Houston, but he gave up a home run there. So you can look at his last 3 outings and be a little bit concerned with how he's looked, as opposed to from August 5th to about August 18th, which is a span of about 5-6 outings. He was starting to refine his game again. So you have to now, I think, put Matt Albers ahead of Sammy Solis in the pecking order because Albers has gone 10 straight games without allowing a run.
I would think that in high leverage situations, you'd want Albers pitching in front of Kinsler and Doolittle, but that wasn't the case tonight because when Albers, we'll get to the nightcap anyway. Diaza with his first double and first triple of the year. Taylor with his 19th triple, a double of the year. That'd be nice if it was 19 triples. Murph with his 37th in Game 1. The Nats went 5 for 16 in runners in scoring position. They stranded 13.
A lot of missed opportunities in the bases today.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Particularly the last 3 innings. They got the 2 base hits by Zimmerman and Wieters, and then Taylor gets the double to make it 5-4. Diaza ties it, but then Bautista flies out. But I think the big jam was the 8th inning.
Oh.
You got a 6-5 lead. Murphy gets hit by a pitch. Kendrick picks up the bunt base hit. And if you're Wilmer Defoe, you got to get that bunt down. You got to give Rendon and Zimmerman 2 chances to tie the game. He can't get the bunt down, ends up lining out to left. Rendon flies out to center. Zimmerman does walk to load the bases, but then Wieters grounds out. So in actuality, you could have tied that ball game up, and Defoe is not going to start. Trey Turner is going to be the shortstop when the playoffs begin. So Defoe, when he comes off the bench, whether it's for stolen bases or getting a bunt down, he's got to do the little things correctly, and today wasn't one of those days.
No, it certainly was not. The strike zone today in Game 1 was terrible.
Game 2 wasn't much better.
No.
The outside pitch wasn't exactly the greatest friend of the Mets or the Nats in some cases. Probably more so unfavorable to the Mets.
We're all human, and strike zone's very but it needs to be called consistently. There was a Rendon in Game 1 sat there and watched 2 pitches that were strikes and watched them for strike 3. Second time, there were runners on base. All right, totals for Game 2. The Mets, 4 runs, 11 hits, and no errors. They fall to 57 and 73. The Nats, 5 runs on 6 hits. Again, they're not scoring a lot of runs, or they're not getting a lot of hits, but they're making the most of their chances in some of these games anyway. They go to 78 and 51. Tanner Roark goes to 11 and 8. Robles goes to 7 and 5. He takes a loss, and Sean did it again. That's his 16th save of the year. Big home run from Adam Lind to put this game away in the 8th.
Well, let me go back to Game 1. The one thing we didn't touch on before we get into Game 2 was the decision to send Edwin Jackson on the ball hit by Daniel Murphy into the gap in right center. Tyrone bobbles the play in right center. Jackson kind of stops at third base before resumes running and then gets thrown out the plate. Now, Dusty and Edwin Jackson both think Darno was blocking the plate. It was clear he wasn't blocking the plate. I would say you have to send him. I think you got to try to tie that game. You got to either, because you can't afford it going in extra innings, especially in a doubleheader. Right. So I think you have to, but again, it goes back to missed chances in scoring position, and you can't make mistakes on the bases, and they did both.
Right, and I'm not one for super aggressive base running, even though I do agree with Eduardo Perez that's been one of the big secrets for the Nats. But when that ball was misplayed out in center field, you got to take your chances. I think that Jackson is fast enough to be on the bases anyway, then he can score. On the other hand, as I cringe at the fact that you would put your pitcher in a situation where he may get injured at the plate.
Yeah, that's a little cringeworthy for sure, especially with the pitching depth this team has. Also, Adam Lind in that game, his 14th pinch hit of the season, which is now tied with 2 other Nats, Tony Batista in 2007 and Darrell Ward in 2006 for the most pinch hits by a Nationals player in a single season.
I wonder if even Drew knew that. You got to be a pretty rabid fan to pull that one out. Okay, Game 2. Tanner Roark, 9 strikeouts tonight over 6. 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, all earned. Didn't walk anybody. Gave up a home run. 9 strikeouts. His ERA is now at 4.63. He still looks better. He seems to be, to me, Ricky, kind of flipping with Gio Gonzalez. He's becoming more and more reliant on the strikeout. I don't remember the strikeout count in his last start, but he's certainly starting to pile them up now, which is something that he wasn't doing earlier. Is there something that you're noticing?
I want to say his last game, which was against the Astros, I think he had 7. I'm going to go back and I was looking at this earlier.
110 pitches for Roark tonight, 75 strikes.
Yeah, I thought he had everything working, at least in the first 5 innings of this game. He had the fastball was moving, the breaking pitch with the curveball I thought was good. Changeup, slider, everything was mixing in nicely. Then the 6th inning, it just all broke down. Reyes gets the base hit, Lagares doubles into the gap, and Nimmo hits the 2-run homer to give the Mets the lead. Here's the one problem I see with Roark. I'm being a little bit nitpicky here. He had 7 in that Astros game, by the way.
Okay.
I think he has a tough time finishing hitters off because he'll get 2 strikes, and then you'll have a lot of foul tips and a lot of foul balls, and a 3 or 4 pitch at bat turns into a 7 or 8 pitch at bat, and it adds up because Roark was at about 75 plus pitches after 4 innings. He did get a quick 5th inning, but at some point he's got to get that pitches per inning down because he's not a guy that I want to have 100 plus pitches in the 6th inning because that's when he usually starts to break down when he gets in that 9,500 pitch mark. So
Right.
I think that's one thing he can correct. But I think, as you said, second half has been miles improvement from the first half and something he can build on. But as a 4-starter, like you said, flipping with Gio, you sign up for 3 runs over 6, but the line is uglier than the first 5 innings because those were outstanding.
Right, and that seems to be his MO. He'll have that one inning that will make you shake your head, and everything else will be just fine. But same thing with Eric Fetty earlier today. There's just not a pitch that either one of them seem to be trusting when they start to get tired that they can actually put and get hit on the ground where they can be, taken care of by the defense. But still, 9 strikeouts is a lot for Roark. Albers, by the way, came in to pitch the 7th, so he pitches both ends of the twin bill. An inning, 2 hits, a strikeout. His ERA is 1.76. Would you have guessed that his ERA plus, I don't know what it is after tonight, would be the best of the entire staff? It's over 200.
I will take Matt Albers as a shutdown reliever for things I wouldn't say on August 27th, Alex.
Thank you very much. I'm not Alex, and I did not play him in a Holiday Inn Express lab. Sean Kelly picks up only his 2nd hold of the year. Imagine that. 2/3 of an inning and a hit. Nothing else there. So Kelly actually pitched an inning and 2/3 today and only allowed 1 hit. That's pretty impressive. But you can thank me later because I'm the one that suggests he's probably not going to make the playoff roster. Joe Blanton, 1/3 of an inning. Got out of that 8th inning there. And again, there's no reason to think that Brandon Kinsler is hurt.
No. Actually, we just got this a few minutes ago. Mark Zuckerman of Masson tweeted, Dusty said Kinsler just got the night off tonight.
Yeah, okay. Sean Doolittle had a rocky 9th inning, but he picked up the save. An inning, 3 hits. A run it was earned, but they held on. And they split the doubleheader. We told you Roark's pitch count numbers 110 and 75. Albers 19 and 12. Kelly 14 and 11. Blanton 4 pitches, 3 strikes, and Doolittle 19 pitches for 16 strikes. So the bullpen threw a great deal of strikes. In fact, I just realized that the Nats didn't walk anybody tonight. That's pretty good.
That's good precision. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, the Mets are walking people left and right. That's what made the 6th inning so impressive. I mean, we could talk about the 3 straight hits to start the 4th between Defoe, Murphy, and Rendon to get on the board. They finally got to Lugo's curveball. But because Seth Lugo can only throw 70 pitches, the Mets had to use their bullpen a lot in Game 2, just like they did in Game 1.
Goodness, yes.
And they did a great job against Hansel Robles. Robles wasn't throwing any strikes, so he walked, I believe, 3, including Michael Taylor, actually walked on 5 pitches to tie the game, which is impressive because Taylor usually will swing at anything that moves, but he was impressive. And Andrew Stevenson, base loaded against Jason Bradford, he walked on 5 pitches. So the Nats scored 2 runs without even getting a hit.
Hey, anytime you take that. So it's, baseball's a funny game. They were out hit 11-6 in Game 2, but won 5-4. We said, what did I say? They went 5 for 16 runners in scoring position in Game 1. They went 1 for 3 in the nightcap. They only stranded 4. But they just made the most of the chances that they had, and Anthony Rendon now has 80 RBI on the year. That's pretty good.
Yeah, if we go back to the chances that they missed, it goes back to, I think, another stat I just saw Zuckerman tweet. Over the last 6 games, the Nats have only 2 home runs. And we love kabooms on the DoDCast.
I didn't have one all weekend.
The player with both of those kabooms is Adam Lynn.
He had one Friday night, and he had one tonight.
Nobody else but Adam Lynn has hit a home run in the last week. So that means you gotta do little things. I mean, I know I harp on that a lot. I know all of you in the DoDCast kind of look at me as that kind of small ball kind of guy, but this is a different team. Until Trey Turner gets back, which could be soon. Jason Worth, I'm sure soon. Bryce Harper, definitely not soon, but in the near future. You have to play differently, whether that's Rendon or Zimmerman actually swinging for power and rather than working a walk as opposed to what they would normally approach an at-bat with the other guys in the lineup. Some guys are just going to have to do things they're not used to and then go back to their old roles when everybody's in the lineup.
This is where they really miss Harper. They're going to get Worth back, what do we think, next weekend?
It was during the telecast that Dusty Baker told the ESPN broadcast crew of Dan Shulman, Jessica Mendoza, and Eduardo Perez, Trey Turner could be back as early as Tuesday because that's when he's eligible to come off the 60. And Jason Worth could be later this week.
You know, to be missing the power bats of Worth and Harper and Zimmerman to a degree tonight, when you're taking close to 100 homers out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm. And Murphy and Rendon aren't pure power hitters.
No, they're not. I mean, that's not what they're there for. I mean, they call him Tony Two Bags for a reason. And Judo says, poor Fetty. And yeah, you know, I feel bad for him. Talking about Andrew Stevenson, too. I mean, this is just you're learning, but it's baptism by fire. And so you're going to make mistakes, especially when you're not ready and people's, as Ricky said, you know, expectations are too high on these people, at least right now. I mean, yes, they're kind of held accountable, but you know, they are learning the game at the highest level. And I didn't see much progress from Fetty today. I have seen it through Stevenson, though, in right field. There are plays that he made Saturday and today that he wasn't making before in right field. So, but the only way you get it, you know, you learn it the hard way, just like the rest of us, no matter what we do.
You want Fetty just to end his year on a great note and then go next year in West Palm with a shot to compete for the 5-starter spot.
Absolutely. And I think Fetty has a very good chance to be the 5-starter next year. All right, to the Major League scoreboard we go. Games of interest either regionally or in the National League playoff race. Pittsburgh beat Cincinnati 5-2. Miami 6, San Diego 2. Giancarlo Stanton crushed his 50th into that shrubbery in dead center in the batter's eye. If he hits 73, do you think he knocks down that god-awful home run statue in left center?
You would think so, but I know we'll talk about this at the end because the Nats play Miami next. Please do not throw Giancarlo Stanton a fastball near any portion of the plate. I will gladly give him the Barry Bonds treatment and walk him every time. Heck, I might walk him with bases loaded the way he's hitting right now because the only reason one of the main reasons Miami's even close to being contention is what he's doing. Take his bat out of the lineup.
He's doing this out of the 2-hole too. I mean, that's not where you expect to hit 31 homers and 77 RBI.
Yelich is good. Ozuna is good. I'd rather be beaten by those two.
And listen to your Uncle Ricky, okay? Orioles beat the Red Sox 2-1. Orioles are still in that massive, mad American League wildcard race. They swept the Red Sox and scored 24 on them. Doug Fister is becoming the ace pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. Would you knock yourself over with a feather if you had that? That's something else I wouldn't have said on August 27th, Alex, for 400. Phillies beat the Cubs today 6-3. Rhys Hoskins, I hope I pronounced that name right, not only had his 11th homer of the year, but also helped turning the first triple play for the Phillies in a long time today.
He's a big hit in Philadelphia, too, Hoskins. 11 homers in 18 games, the first player ever to do that. And he had 29 homers in AAA, so that's now 40 home runs across 2 levels in baseball this year.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The Rockies shut out the Braves today 3-0. I was going to read the Nats score, but you know that one already. Tampa swept St. Louis for G's and Criminy. 3-2 in 10 innings today. Houston's not a National League team. Milwaukee actually took a weekend series from the Dodgers. You said it's the first time the Dodgers have lost a series since the Nats did it back earlier.
June 5th to 7th was the last time the Dodgers lost a series.
Arizona shut out San Francisco 11-0. So all the teams competing for the wild card today in the National League won.
I'm going to give credit to the Astros while we're on the DoDCast. They were down 5-4 in that game in the 7th inning. And I'm sure all that's on their minds right now that they could easily – they got a big enough lead in the AL West that they have that excuse that lots on their mind. They went out there and came from behind to win that game. I'm not sure how they did it, but I knew they were trailing late in the ball game. But to the resiliency they have, and now they have to figure out, it was McCann with actually the bases clearing triple in the 8th, so even better. Wow. I'm sure now they got to figure out where the heck they're going to be playing games the next week. But our thoughts and prayers with all those people in Texas, and please stay safe wherever you are, and we're just all thinking about you, and we're all heartbroken about all the water we're seeing in that area.
It just doesn't stop. Judo says, first night in new apartment, hoping it doesn't have any roaches walk on, and he starts his brand new job tomorrow. Judo, true story. Moved into my first apartment back in 1992, and when I was writing for somebody else, the Mets traded R.A. Dickey to the Blue Jays for Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard was born on the day I moved into my first apartment.
Fun facts with Ron for 600.
That's right. Regarding Fetty, he's obviously underdeveloped but has potential. Unfortunately, he has to be called on in emergencies. Well, when you have 13 players on the DL, Judo, you don't really have too many, other options. And, you keep seeing the Alejandro de Azas and Rafael Bautistas going out there. It's because they really have no choice in the matter. And the fact that they keep playing as well as they do, I know it's frustrating to sit there and see this mistake and that mistake, but all things considered, I know some of you look at this and go, why aren't they doing better? And then you look at what the Mets have gone through. Yes, the Mets have lost all of their starting pitching except for DeGrom, but the fact that they're still 12 games in front of Miami, a surging Miami, shows you just how well this team is run.
You put it into perspective. They played a weekend series, I know it's the Mets, where they started A.J. Cole and Eric Fetty in 2 out of 4 games.
Right.
And found a way to split, and one of those games was against Jacob DeGrom, who has beaten you 3 times this year. At least 2 of them he got wins for, but 3 of the starts they've won. So I think you sign up for that easily. And again, you had a chance to win today, so you could easily win 3 out of 4 if one break or 2 went your way. If maybe the umpire actually thinks De Aza foul tipped the ball. We still don't know if he tipped it or not, but another bad umpiring thing today.
You mentioned, because you watch on SNY, that crew thought that the ball hit home plate.
It took them 3 or 4 replays to finally think that. But De Aza was clearly adamant that he tipped that ball.
Yeah, to the point where Dusty almost got rung up after the game was over. They did review it. No, that was the plate.
No, they played the plate.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Kind of had to.
So Judo has an interesting question for both y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still consider yourselves fans, or does the nature of your job force you not to be? I'll let you answer that first.
Okay. In terms of fans of the team, I mean,
I think maybe fans of the sport.
Fans of the sport. I mean, obviously, we both are huge fans of baseball. It's part of, I think what Ron and I try to do is we try to tell you like it is. I mean, we're not going to try to be overly negative. We're not going to try to be overly positive. One of us may be more positive than the other, but
depending on the day.
But I think it's our job to you guys out there to sort of give it to you from both perspectives. There are times where we'll have the fan moments, and that's when all the exciting moments happens. Most of them we do that away from the DoDCast Sports starts. But I think we try to, like I said, just tell it the best way that we possibly can.
You don't do this unless you're a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You don't spend all the hours. Trust, besides the DoDCast, there's the writing part, there's the planning part. And so we're both putting 20, 25 hours a week into this. I don't do this just to go do assembly line work. I try to be objective, but I'm wearing a Washington Nationals jersey, and you've known me long enough to know that I don't live anywhere near D.C. And so, yes, you do become attached to the subject that you cover, just like you become attached to other coworkers to some degree, because you see them when they're doing well and you see them when they're doing bad. No, I'm probably I'm obviously a fan of the sport. I think those who are the best in their professions, and I'm not even claiming to be anywhere near that, are fans of the sport they cover. That doesn't necessarily mean they're fans of the teams that they cover. But once you start to get to know people, even someone who grew up in New England, you kind of wondered, well, could you ever work for the New York Yankees? Just for the obvious reasons that they're the biggest arch rivals. Well, yeah, you could, just because just because they wear a certain piece of laundry doesn't mean that they're bad people. Judo says, one of my favorite MMA writers has stated he can't consider himself a fan like he used to be objective due to the need for objectivity. It's late. Curious if I feel the same. We aren't necessarily journalists. I mean, we're encouraged by our superiors to have opinions. Sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're wrong. And sometimes they can be changed from right to wrong or wrong to right in about 2.5 seconds.
Sometimes they spark others to break out of slumps. Sometimes they spark them to get into slumps.
Right. Absolutely. So I guess for me, when I get at the keyboard, it's, as Ricky said, it's my job to be honest. And when I do the stuff on Twitter, I'm talking obviously to Nats fans. I'm not going to root against my team, but I'm not going to wear blinders and say they're the greatest things in sliced bread either. And when other teams make good moves or injuries, as we've had a lot with some of these Mets games, you're going to feel genuine sympathy. And you're going to give other teams credit. So I think you can definitely be a fan and be objective. Probably a little more objective than if I was just sitting here at night falling asleep watching a game. But no, baseball is my number one love of sport. And
just to add one more thing on the conversation. I think the unique thing of both of us is we're not originally Nats fans. We can look at it from a different perspective, from coming from rooting for different teams. In some case, there's a big bowl coming up this weekend that might decide a division, which if you watch the DoDCast enough, you'll know very well, and we'll update you on it. But I think what we can do is we watch with our eyes. I mean, we both have had to go through the process of learning about the organization and what the team's been doing, and we form our own opinions of players based on what we see. So that's really all we can go on. And sometimes we have to rely on the fans on Twitter or here on the DoDCast to help us out if they see something. I mean, that's the fun part about the job.
I mean, you guys actually drive storylines, whether it's here or on Twitter, because we know what you're talking about, or at least what you're talking about with us. And the other aspect I have, because I'm familiar with this organization when it was with its original mom and dad, the Montreal Expos. I wasn't a huge Expo fan, but they're closer to me than the Red Sox as far as geography is concerned, and so you never rooted against them. And to see the advantages that they have in Washington that they never had in Montreal, you're rooting for that. If the Expos had won 4 titles in 6 years, it'd still be in Montreal. So no, I think there's some of this experience. A lot of it is just, look, anyone who works in this field wants whoever they cover to succeed. If someone's rooting for you to fail, I have a problem with that. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be honest along the way. And Judo says, thanks, y'all. You three are definitely objective and fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch Drew as they go on, because Drew is the first generation native Nats fan. He grew up with baseball in DC, which for Ricky came in his teens, and for me, they moved in 2005. So I was 33 when baseball came back to DC. I was born 2 months after the Rangers, the Senators moved to Texas, and I was in my 30s when baseball came back to DC. And I appreciate you covering that our hot takes are never facepalm worthy. Sometimes they can be.
Back up the hot takes with facts and stats and stuff.
We try. All right. Minor leagues.
All right. I have it open. I can run through it.
You can do a better job than I do.
Okay, let's start with Syracuse, which took on Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and they got the win 9-2. Had a 6-run 5th inning, so that was really different in this one. And I think the big story, and I got an article going up in this tomorrow, is Brandon Snyder. He's had 2 multi-home run games over his last 5. He had 5 RBIs today. Irving Falou, 3 hits at the top of the order. And Jacob Turner got the win. 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 hits. He struck out 5 and walked 1. And Wander Suero, a scoreless 9th inning, lowers his ERA to 1.88. So you have to wonder if he eventually forces his way up to the major leagues next month.
How can you not bring him up?
Just as a reward, I think you kind of have to, just with the way he's pitched. Down in Double-A, Harrisburg lost to Reading 7-4. The big story here, Victor Robles, 2 for 4 with a double. He's now got a 15-game hitting streak, hitting .322 in Double-A, so he's ending his year on a good note. Jimmy Cordero took the loss, 3 runs, 2 hits, and 2/3 inning out of the bullpen. Brady Dragmeyer gave up 2 earned runs, but walked 4 in 5 2/3 as the starter. To Potomac and the Peanuts, they beat Frederick 4-1. Luis Reyes got the win, 7 innings, 1 run, 3 hits. He struck out 5 and walked 3. R.C. Orlon got the save. Trey Turner 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts as a designated hitter today. He did reach on an error, but got caught stealing. Nevertheless, you just got to hope Turner gets back into a rhythm again, because his numbers in the minors have not been great on his rehab assignment, but that's not what all rehabs are about. Jake Knoll and Rhett Weissman with home runs for the Peanuts, both solo shots, and Knoll, his first in high A.
Yeah, he did. Turner did have a single and a double yesterday. So the timing is coming back. And you see with someone like Michael Taylor, it takes about a week for that to come back after he can't come back up.
Dusty was talking about it with Buster Olney. I think it was the 3rd inning of the game. He was saying the toughest part for both Turner and Worth when they come back is going to be the off-speed pitches.
Yep.
Getting back to those timings. So that's really the only thing he's worried about. He doesn't want to look too much in the rehab numbers, which is a fair point. He was like 0 for 14 at one point. I think Taylor's was more of a concern because his number was more of a sample size as opposed to what Turner and Worth are going through right now. So, again, they have a month to sort of figure it out. So they'll be able to work on their timing pretty easily, as opposed to Harper, who may only have, good note, 10 to 14 days maybe.
I'd imagine that Turner will play every day. I'm sure Worth will get put in that rotation of wherever, because they have, he's going to want that rest. But Turner, I imagine, will play every day.
Do you put Defoe at second and spell Murphy a couple days? Because Defoe's hitting the ball well right now.
I think Murphy could probably use an extended 2 or 3 day break, don't you?
I would think so. You got to get Defoe's bat, keep his bat in the lineup for the time being, and maybe start to work his new role in. Bring him off the bench in a 1-run game to start stealing some bases again.
Yeah.
They got to be doing that. Like Royal Perez said, when they do that, that can steal a run for them at any moment. And kind of need that without the power in the lineup.
Absolutely. Judo says, by the way, how amazing is Rendon? Us Nat fans are so privileged to have the best kept secret in baseball. Fangraphs has him as their number one player in WAR score, and I believe Baseball Reference has him in 5th.
You look up and he has a 3-2 count practically every time he comes up.
Well, that's one of the reasons why he's so successful. He will work and grind pitchers. You're very good at looking at how many pitches a batter sees in a given game, and it's always 17, 20, 22. I mean,
I'll give you the number for tonight just to be tonight he saw 20.
20. I mean, that's just remarkable stuff. And he does it day in and day out. And that's one of the reasons why he's so successful, is that he's pretty choosy. And when he made those 2 strikeouts today, it kind of caught me off guard, because he's usually better about things like that.
Despite a rough day in game 1, 5 at-bats, 31 pitches.
I mean, that's just, you wear pitchers out doing that.
That's the difference, because the Mets, they burned through like almost 2/3 of their bullpen in game 1.
Yes. I believe, Judo says someone's walk-up song should be Staying Alive. I don't know if he was talking about Rendon or Turner, because I think we were talking about Turner when that popped up.
So let's say Howie Kendrick should be This Is How We Do It, but it hasn't happened yet.
Even I put that in a hashtag in game 1. I mean, this is how we do it. And boy, I really hope that they could find a place for him next year. What a steal he has been.
Let's go finish up the minors here. Hagerstown lost to West Virginia 2-1. Tough walk-off loss in the bottom of the ninth. Ruined a good start for Matthew DeRozier. 6 innings, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. Gabe Klobasitz, who was making his Hagerstown debut, actually, got called up from Auburn, 2 perfect innings and struck out 4 out of the bullpen. So good stuff for him. Carter Keyboom, 2 for 2 with a couple of walks after going 4 for 6 with a home run last night. So he's starting to find his swing again, hitting .304 for the Suns this season. Looking at Auburn, they had a long game with Batavia today. They lost 3-2 in 14 innings. Cameron Estee with the solo shot in the 4th, his 4th of the season. Angel Guillen got the start, 5 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits, struck out 6. Despite 4 shutout relief innings by Max Engelbrecht, it was Jared Brasher who took the loss, but he went 3 innings, so at least he was able to go that deep for the Double Days, but they dropped to 25 and 38. And the GCL Nats, they were down 8-3 going to the bottom of the 9th, and they scored 5 runs to tie it, and then a run in the bottom of the 10th to win 9-8. They're now 31 and 19, so they could be playing in the GCL playoffs.
That's good.
Sean Adler got the win, 2 1/3, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks out of the bullpen. 3 hits for Justin Connell out in left field, a couple RBIs for him, and 2 hits apiece from Ricardo Mendez and Luis Garcia. Also of note, Kelvin Gutierrez on a rehab assignment there. He's one of the more productive, underrated third baseman in the system. He's had an injury-plagued year, so maybe he comes back next year and becomes more of a factor in the farm system.
Do not be surprised this year, or not this year, but next year or the year after, if they start with the international rules in extra innings of at least short, maybe A ball games, certainly short A, and just start the 12th inning with a runner on second, just because they don't have enough pitching in those games, especially the short season A games where you have pitchers on really limited pitch counts who are starting. They just run out of pitchers.
Nobody wants to watch the backup catcher throw 5 innings.
And that's happened this year. It happened once up here in Vermont, up the hill. Rendon is the one that should have Staying Alive as his walk-up song because of his falling off ability.
And he makes defensive plays he makes the complex plays look so easy.
If it wasn't for Arenado, he'd be the best defensive third baseman in the National League.
Best 6-hitter in baseball.
He's
hitting cleanup now, but probably the best 6th-hitter in the league.
Justice really is underrated. All right, tomorrow on the site, Drew will have the storylines to watch for the big Nats Marlins series. Ricky is doing a profile of.
I'm going to be talking a little bit about Brandon Snyder and his stretch in August hitting over 300. And it's kind of odd where they signed Snyder as a non-roster invitee, and the one position they've actually been really healthy at this year is first base. So they haven't really needed him. But he can play anywhere. Maybe if they make a 40 move, he'll be up there. Big game tomorrow, of course, because Max Scherzer, Dusty said, is going to start tomorrow, which we already knew, but he confirmed it because that's what he likes to do. He'll go up against Jose Urena, which, fun fact about him, he has not lost on the road this year. I think he's 8-0, batting average against about 170. And remember, when Gio threw the near no-hitter, he only gave up 1 run in like 8 innings. So that's going to be a really tough game for the Nats. For Scherzer, just about staying healthy. Don't pitch to Stanton, but Scherzer is kind of that bulldog where he will pitch to Stanton. So those should be fun matchups. But it's going to be a key to get off to a good start in this series because you got to face Vance Worley on Tuesday. They never hit Vance Worley. And you got Steven Strasburg on Wednesday, who you don't know what he'll look like coming off of the calf cramps, and he's pitching in a day game. So you never know with that. So I think you got the big one tonight. You got it out of the way. Magic numbers at 22. You can't go any further than 9 ahead, which is good. But if you get 1, you get that magic number below. If you get 2 games in the series, you get it below 20. Yeah, that's what really your goal should be. Get 2 games in the series because you look at their schedule. At Miami for 3, at Milwaukee for 4 is really the last stretch of games outside of that Dodger series that they're playing somebody with pennant pressure.
Edwin Jackson, who pitches Tuesday, has pitched really well too. Outside of 1 bad start, he's giving you more than what you would expect from a number 5 starter.
5 of his 7 starts have been against teams either in playoff contention or they're going to make the playoffs.
And he's pitched admirably in all but 1.
Mm-hmm. Really, it's the Milwaukee game and the first inning in Chicago.
Right.
That's about it.
So, I like the Nats' chances going into this series. I'm more concerned about to see what Scherzer has. He's going to be rusty the first couple innings, and that's when, Stanton's batting second. But anyway, so I'll be with you tomorrow night and Wednesday afternoon, and Drew, for the relocated Drew Douglas, will be with you on Tuesday.
Drew's new studio. You guys might enjoy that.
It's nice. I lived in one of those type of studios for 3 years, and it didn't look that nice. And I live by myself. All right. So today we did the Player of the Week, which is Anthony Rendon, and I did a piece on why Sean Kelly may on the Sean Kelly conundrum. What will they do with him? Will they make the playoff roster? Will he even be with the team next year?
But that's a big topic of conversation. I've looked at Eddie Romero. I'm sure if and when Coda Glover comes back, his name will be thrown in the conversation because in September, all these bullpen pitchers that Dusty has in the 40-man are going to be competing for jobs. Outside of the big three, Albers, Solis, and Perez. I think everybody else's spot's up for grabs. You're
going to have a bullpen of 8 in the playoffs. You'll have 4 starters, your fifth guy converted into a long reliever, and 7.
Which appears to be Jackson. So
right. I mean, Jackson's going to be in the playoff roster. So in my view, it's a race between Blanton and Kelly on who gets that last playoff pitching spot. I think everyone else, as long as they're healthy, is secure.
Also, though, if you face a team that's predominantly left-handed, you throw eventually another guy who might come back in a little bit, Eddie Romero, into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so give this video a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, District on Deck. Follow us on Twitter at District on Deck. And, of course, districtondeck.com. So, for Ricky Keeler, who gets credit for a win, I'm Ron Juckett, who gets credit for a loss.
We'll update these again, and I will take the daily double for Edwin Jackson on a potential playoff roster on August 27th for 1,000. Wrap up the Jeopardy theme of the show.
All right, don't need to get copyright struck for that. Well, all right, so I will talk to you tomorrow night after the Immaculate One comes back to face the Marlins. And so until about 10:30 tomorrow night, for Ricky Keeler and the rest of us at District on Deck, I'm Ron Juckett. Good morning.